May you find happiness and peace, and may your home stand the test of time.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary. Today I'll be reacting to a short history of slavery. So without further ado, let's get started.
And now for a brief history of slavery. Here's the first thing you need to know. Slavery was not invented by white people. It did not start in 1619 when the first slaves came to Jamestown. It existed before then. It did not start in 1492 when Columbus discovered the New World. In fact, when the intrepid explorer landed in the Bahamas, the native Taino tribe hoped that he would help them defeat their aggressive neighbors, the Caribs. The Caribs enslaved the Taino and, on occasion, served them for dinner. Slavery existed in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. The word slave actually comes from the Slavs of Eastern Europe. Millions of them, all white by the way, were captured and enslaved by Muslims in the 9th century and later by the Ottoman Turks. Slavery existed when the Roman Empire controlled the Mediterranean and most of Europe from the 1st through the 5th centuries. Slavery existed when Alexander the Great conquered Persia in the 4th century BC. It was so common that Aristotle simply considered it natural. The slave-master model was just how the world operated in the great philosopher's day. Slavery existed during the time of the ancient Egyptians 5,000 years ago. As far back as we can go in human history, we find slavery. As renowned historian John Steele Gordon notes from time immemorial, slaves were a major item of commerce. As much as a third of the population of the ancient world was enslaved. Here's the second thing you need to know. White people were the first to formally put an end to slavery. In 1833, Britain was the first country in the history of the world to pass a Slavery Abolition Act. They were quickly followed by France, who in 1848 abolished slavery in her many colonies. Then, of course, came the 13th Amendment in the United States Constitution. After centuries of human slavery, white men led the world in putting an end to the abhorrent practice. That includes the 300,000 Union soldiers, overwhelmingly white, who died during the Civil War. Now, am I saying that this makes white people better than anyone else? Of course not. My purpose here is to simply tell the truth, and the truth is that human history is complicated. No one, regardless of skin color, stands guiltless. Yet today we are never told to consider the murderous Persian Empire or the cannibalism of indigenous tribes of North and South America or the heinous actions under the imperialistic Muslim, Chinese, Mongol, or Japanese empires, to name just a few. Instead, we're told that slavery is a white phenomenon. And like all persistent lies, this lie spawns a bunch of other lies. On social media, I come across extraordinary depictions about how Africans lived like pharaohs before Europeans came and laid waste to their paradise. I wish any of this were true, but it's not. It's a fantasy. The truth is that Africans were sold into slavery by other Black Africans, and in many cases, sold for items as trivial as gin and mirrors. Whites didn't go into the interior and round up the natives. They waited on the coast for their Black partners to bring them Black bodies. The stark reality is that our lives had very little value to our ancestors. Here's the third thing you need to know. If you think slavery is a relic of the past, you're wrong. There are some 700,000 slaves in Africa today, right now. That's the lowest estimate that I could find. Other sources say there are many more. For context, that's almost twice as many slaves as were ever brought to the United States. Child soldiers, human trafficking, forced labor, these are the conditions that currently exist within the same sub-Saharan region where the transatlantic slave trade originated. African bodies are being sold today like they were sold then, and no, they are not being purchased by any country of white men. In fact, slavery, by any traditional definition, is exclusively practiced today within non-white countries. But we hear almost nothing about that. just like we hear nothing about how slavery was universal until good people in Europe and America ended it 2 centuries ago. Why? Because our so-called leaders, black and white, wouldn't profit from it. Black victimhood is nothing if not profitable. It elects politicians and funds racial grievance groups. And if Black Americans began to view themselves as partners in the American dream, if we embraced the patriotic spirit that holds all men are created equal, the patriotic spirit that is our real heritage, then the race hustlers would soon be out of business. And who wants that? I'm Candice Owens, author of Blackout for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video.
Well, guys, this is interesting. Well, based on what she said almost 700,000 people are currently being sold out, for slavery. I'm still trying to understand where she gets her statistics from, because I live in Africa. I was born in Africa and I'm currently in Africa. I have not seen anyone being sold out for slavery or used for slavery. Yeah, you can say the situation or the majority of the countries in Africa are not, rich, okay? But that does not mean they force you into doing child labor or into slavery. Yeah. If it's child labor, it's a different thing. If it's slavery, it's totally different. No one is forcing you into doing what you don't want to do. If you want to do something, you can do it, but maybe you are underpaid for what you're doing, but that does not mean you are being forced to do this. You must do this. No. It's not like that here in Africa. And she made mention of black selling black to the white back then, which I have no doubt about, because I heard that story when the white folks came in. People were actually selling, their fellow human being, their fellow blacks to them. But the thing is, we have castle built by a certain people, where I don't want to be specific, that those slaves were being kept, and that castle were being run by a certain people, okay? And if you tell me that what's it called, we sell those people to them, they don't go and they don't get them, then why? And okay, if you don't encourage it, then why then do you build this castle to imprison this slave, till your ship come, or till you have a means to send them out of Africa? And also, even after imprisoning them, you make them do certain work, even right here in Africa, especially works like planting of sugarcane, planting of cocoa, planting of other things that you export to your country. And I think the thing is, you made the means, or you don't tell me that you send these black people to their ship. I mean, black people send their fellow black people to the white people's ship, and they send, the bodies away, or they send the black folks away. No, you have your castle here in Africa, in different part of Africa, and which you keep this slave till you feel like, yes, it's time for you to send them away. So I think she's keeping some part of it, or she's just trying to close blind eye to it. But the reason why I'm happy is because gradually the idea of slave trade and everything is gradually fading away, because because of democracy, and aside from that, everyone is trying to push our attention on other things, maybe making money, surviving, and all. So I'm so glad of that. I'm glad that we are all letting go of the past. Okay, but if you want to say a story, or you want to say something that happened, I think the best thing is to experience it, or come here and see for yourself. And then before you start, writing your book, or presenting, or giving a speech, because now you've experienced it. I think the last time I went to Cape Coast, I saw the castle. I was privileged to go there with a whole lot of white folks, and I felt bad for them, even if that was actually my first time. I felt bad because based on what the guy that was taking us on the tour was saying about how everything happened and this, felt like, just imagine someone telling me something about my forefathers, what they did to other people. Well, I'm not saying we blacks are left out, because I told you, based on the story she said, that blacks sold out their fellow blacks out. I heard that story too, and yes, it's true. they did it, because I won't deny the fact that yes, they are all sent. No, they did it. But at least if you want to say the full story, say it the way it is. And I love this so much that this is coming from a black lady. She's trying to let us know her view, or what she think about this slave trade and all. And I love the fact that based on her, she said Europe and American were the first person to abolish this slave trade and all. And well, I thank them for that, and I really love the fact that I was born in a century or in a time that this slave trade stuff have actually ended. And I've seen the efforts which they've done, what they've done for Africa and what they are still doing for Africa. And okay, so many instances were given in the Bible concerning slave trade, especially during the time of Moses, when Moses went to save his people from Pharaoh. You see, they were actually slaves then. But I love the fact that the direction in which the world is, going now, I love the fact that they've put rules that have, abolished this slave trade. They've put rules that make everyone, see each other as an equal being. And also, we can actually work with each other and be free. Well, I think the world is growing, the world is evolving, and the world is becoming more and more better. I know Rome wasn't built in a day, and everything is not going to fade away, at the same time. But gradually, we are getting there. And I pray and hope that the peace we are enjoying in this world will continue. Well, let me know what you think in the comment section. If it is your first time visiting the channel, click on the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and remain blessed.